we're all really idiots. I mean, I know that's a big statement, especially in this cancel culture world, but let's be honest. Humans are kind of idiotic in the things that we decide to do. I mean, think about it. Humanity's been on hardcore mode for most of its existence, and now we get a little bit of freedom, a little bit of internet, and all of a sudden, instead of trying to pioneer or push forward, we're spending most of our time on social media, swiping through TikTok videos, liking posts, and arguing with literal random strangers about whether something implemented in video games should exist or not. That's right, we no longer care about our real world enough. We're now focused on a make-believe world in video games. There's a bunch of non-apex predators in the animal kingdom thinking, I wish I had that problem. Listen, I don't think it's an insult calling someone an idiot. I mean, I'm an idiot at certain things, like judging ballet, for example. I don't know what they're doing. I mean, they're on their toes, they're spinning around, he does a jump, she does a little, twist. 10 points, 5 points, I don't know what I'm grading them for, so yeah, I'd be an idiot at judging ballet. Now, maybe I shouldn't turn my efforts to figure out exactly how a pirouette is done and why I can't do one right now, but maybe I should turn my efforts on educating, teaching, and explaining some topics that many gamers are admittedly idiots on. That could help clarify the situation, so we no longer have to spend our time arguing online or complaining when we lose, and instead work on fixing world hunger or space travel or, something important. So that's when it hit me. I was at a low point in life, as many of you who have been dealt with trauma can understand, but I realized someone else in the world had it a little bit worse than me, and that was the idiots who didn't understand SBMM. Don't worry if you belong to this category, many people do. I myself once did as well, until I studied this topic at a game studio and saw how it actually worked behind the scenes. Luckily, I'll be your guide to understanding SBMM and its function, common misconceptions, and how you can understand this process once and for all, so you never have to argue about it online. You'll know immediately whether someone is talking out of their hiney or if they actually know what they're saying. First, let's tackle some of the most common myths about SBMM, or in other words, skill-based matchmaking. Well, the real problem with SBMM is it makes the game no fun. Incorrect. SBMM is one of the reasons your game is, in many ways, fun at all. If you were in a situation where you were constantly playing against people who were not in your skill level, either on the above end of being better than you or on the below end of being way worse than you, you wouldn't have a fun game. SBMM aims to eliminate that difference and place you into games with people of similar skill level. It's not fun to get one shot every single time you walk out of base by someone who's a professional player if you're just someone coming home from work with 2 kids after a job trying to relax on the couch. It's also not fun to beat up on a bunch of little kids who have never played this game before and get 1,000 kills against opponents who don't know any better. Okay, well, I mean, that is kind of fun, but more of like a one-off thing, not every single time. It gets boring after a while, right? Beating up kids. Right? The second myth about SBMM is that it gives you no variety in your matches, meaning you have the same type of sweatiness every single time you play. I'd like to, do well or have some different opponents every once in a while. I mean, it's a game, for crying out loud. If you're ever having too many sweaty games in SBMM, your MMR, that is your secret rating that the game keeps track of that most of us don't know exactly publicly because it would cause chaos, ends up going up or down based on your performances. If you have a great performance and you keep doing well, you'll get put into increasingly higher lobbies with people who have higher MMRs, matchmaking ratings. However, if you keep losing, you will start to experience your MMR drop, and that means you will be put against other players who have a lower matchmaking rating, meaning less skilled or less effective in their previous games. So you will get variety, but if you continue to win, and lose, it probably means that you're in the right lobbies most of the time. Third misconception about SBMM: I've only played this game for like 50 hours, and how come someone with 14,000 kills and over 1,000 hours played is in my game? Something has got to be off. Since the game keeps track of an individual player's matchmaking rating secretly, we only get to see the stuff like stats, kills, and hours on the public databases. This leads us to believe that a player who's played 14,000 hours or got 10,000 kills is going to be much better than us who has only 50 hours played and maybe 100 kills. But that's not the truth. Recently, a designer from Apex Legends who talked about SBMM in a deep dive that I covered on my channel, twitch.tv/rainday, said that there is an average skill level increase based on the hours that you play Apex Legends. However, if you take a look at the chart in front of you, you'll see that the variability of the best and the worst players in all of those categories of hours played tends to overlap quite a bit. Now, what this means is that someone who has played over 1,000 hours of Apex could be on the lower end of actual skill and simply just put in a lot of time and hours in order to get those kills. And it makes a lot of sense, right? If someone who was less than 50 hours played in Apex came from a Valorant or a Call of Duty background, such as Scump or Tens or It's Timmy, and was allowed to play Apex, they wouldn't need 1,000 hours to be just as good or better than a player who has put in that amount of time, which means that even though we're looking at these numbers saying that player shouldn't be in my lobby, it may be false. You guys might be a very similar skill level, even though they've put in more time. The fourth myth about SBMM. All of my friends are quitting because of SBMM. It makes me want to leave the game. And in fact, I know so many other people who are leaving and quitting Apex because it's still there. Get it out or this game is gonna die. A little dramatic, huh? The goal of any video game is simply to retain players, which is why we don't see solos. If you don't know this, having worked at a game development company when a game called Realm Royale from Hi-Rez Studios came out, you might remember it because Shroud and Ninja played that game pretty well on stream and it was popular for a little while. One of the implementations we did at that studio was add solos as an opportunity, even though the game started as only squads. What we found out was shocking to me and to many people when I explained this fact. It's that once solos were introduced, people not only didn't play again or as long that day, but when they quit, they didn't come back. That's why solos mode ended up going away in Realm Royale, and also why Apex Legends has yet to put out a solos mode that is permanent, mostly because players do not stay and continue playing the game and come back when they are done. That is the entire goal of any system in any game. It's to keep players coming back, continuing to play, and hopefully purchasing skins so that they can continue to fund the operation of the live service. SBMM increases retention across the board. And if you think about it like this, imagine that the best players in the world were randomly getting put up against brand new players. If that happened, brand new players would be discouraged from ever trying to learn the game because they would feel it would be an impossible task, and certainly it would be, which is why games implement certain structures for new characters to learn the game before they get fully let out into the public lobbies. If someone tells you people are quitting because of SBMM, they're simply lying and do not understand the purpose of the actual game. It may be anecdotally true for them, and what they're characterizing is the problem with what's been frustrating them in the game they're playing, but it is factually not true that the system is discouraging players from staying and playing again. The number 5 myth about SBMM. I've been a good player for a long time, Rainday, and I know that I am one of the best players out there, but I don't have any friends to play, and I don't like squatting up with people. I like doing my own thing. Why can't SBMM give me teammates of my caliber? And why do I always get put with intentionally these terrible players? You know, this is kind of a myth because the game doesn't intentionally put you with bad players, but what the game does is it actually tries to average out the weight of your squad's effective ability by combining the skill levels they've been able to group into that match of 60 and then put into a team of 3 to make the most balanced teams in that entire match. While conceptually you might be wrong thinking that the game is intentionally trying to make you have a worse team to weigh you down, in practice, it ends up working that way if you're one of the better players. In order to balance out a team of someone who is a very skilled player, you need to put players who are a little bit less skilled with them in the lobby so that it averages out to the rest of the team's overall skill that they'll be competing against. If you've ever played schoolyard games back in the day, the first pick usually went to a team and that was the best player. Then the next team got 2 picks. In order to offset the value of not picking the best player, they get the 2 second and third best players on their team, and then the picks continue until you have an even game. The problem is, what if you have a great player, then you have 2 really good players on the other team, and then every other player is terrible? Like, they're just not good at all. Then the player who's really good picked first does feel like the odds are against them, and this is the problem. This is what Apex Legends is fixing, and this is why maybe the outcry of SBMM, although led with many misconceptions and myths, has actually done something valuable to improve the gaming industry's standards of better games. The issue then doesn't become about making fair teams once you have a group, but it then becomes about trying to find a group that is fair to make teams with. So the issue isn't the fact that they're sorting the teams incorrectly by averaging out their skill level. That's still a good idea. The problem is there's too much of a variety of the skill levels of players that they've got to average out. The answer, which Sammy Duck has gone into in depth in an article I'm going to link down and is now implemented in Apex in many different regions of this trial new SBMM, is going to take smaller group samples, meaning there will be less variance between the best and the worst player, so that these games should feel much more fair. In summary, Apex Legends and SBMM in general are always faced with an issue, making the most balanced teams possible. But when you have an unbalanced group of players to pick from because the system is prioritizing grouping 60 players in for a match quickly, of course, because of retention, then you might have matches that are uneven in terms of who's playing. Now, the system is opting for taking a little bit more time of choosing the groups of 60 players who come in, using an algorithm to sort them into the most even and fair groups. That way, when they're sorted into teams afterwards and a lobby is ready, you will have less variance on the quality of your teammates and, of course, then the quality of your matches. In summary, whether it's Apex Legends or any future multiplayer FPS game, SBMM should be here to stay, and it's something that instead of arguing about, we should learn and understand more so you can be more educated in your conversations with dissenters and people just crying online. To be honest, most of these complaints about SBMM have come and will come from content creators who want to drop a 20 bomb for YouTube views. However, I want people to think about this differently. Instead of encouraging people for blowouts and games that make you feel like you're on top of the world, which we have role-playing games for that, and cool moments like Kratos in God of War that can make you feel like a god. In multiplayer games, where more and more money is on the line and more prestige and life-changing access is there, why don't we encourage people to do a little bit more? Try a little bit harder and improve each and every day, like we do our favorite athletes when they're going for a Super Bowl title, an NBA championship, or even the World Cup. We don't let them slip off by not practicing or not recovering. Why are we letting our content creators do the same? So now, my fellow idiots, hopefully you have just graduated your masterclass in SBMM. If you have any other questions, leave them in the comment section below, and maybe one of our Rainstorm members will answer them for you, or maybe I'll dive in and try to give you my best response here in the video. But of course, more here to come on the channel, so leave a like and subscribe to stay tuned and make sure you get my videos. Never give up, never stop gaming, and I'll see you all next time.